Hello everyone, welcome to Green Chat, where we're going to take a closer look at an upcoming MMO, Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. My name is Cleeze, and welcome to episode 2. So let's get started. Alright, and welcome back to episode 2 of Green Chat, where you guys can ask me questions and I can give you my opinion to hopefully help you formulate your own on Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. Also, this gives me a place to share Pantheon Rise of the Fallen with others to help promote the game. Also, something I wanted to do was follow along in its development. So there is a lot of information out there on the website and on the forum posts, but sometimes it's kind of hard to go digging through it. So I figured from the beginning of the forums, I was going to go through, and if anything was responded to more than 40 times, I'll bring it up here just to share that topic. So you can kind of see points that were hit along in the game's development to kind of help you get closer or get a better understanding of what Pantheon is all about and what it's going to become or what it's going to strive to be. All right, so let's get started. Right now, we're still following along with the forum posts. I don't have any questions from any of you guys, so we're going to jump into the first one. First up, we have a post from Angry Kids, and it's a community brainstorm post. This one's actually pretty important, I feel. He's asking how to stop the sock. What he means by that is, I think notoriously in other games it was called poop socking. I know, very, very glamorous term, but basically what it means is when, so in an open world, I guess a lot of people won't be used to this, in an open world game like Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is going to be, if a raid boss spawns or a raid or a rare NPC, anybody has access to it, pretty much. So it's like it pops at the whole server, one spawn, boom, let's rock and roll. So what they used to do is people would have characters camped out or logged out near that boss, and they would rotate on camping it, pretty much just waiting for it to spawn. Because some of these spawns were, it could spawn within the next 3 days. So it could spawn today or it could spawn 2 days from now. Nobody knew, so they would sit there and camp it. And then when it would spawn, everybody would, hey, let's, they'd call a bat phone or whatever you want to call it, and hit up their guild and say, everybody log on right now, boom. And they'd log on, boom, kill the mob, and it would be gone for the server for that lockout or that rotation. And that's what pretty much socking is just camping spawns and locking them down to your guild. And they would rotate between spawns, and at some points pretty much lock them down to the point where they would just sell the gear to the less fortunate who weren't able to really camp it like that. So how do you stop that? Because that really sucks for that to be a thing. So in Vanguard, one thing they did was they had raid mobs or special mobs like that spawn every hour or so, and then you would get locked to that mob every week like other traditional MMOs, which is a good solution, I think, to that problem. But then you have the issue with, let's say, Tuesday, or not Tuesday. Well, yeah, let's go with Tuesday. So Tuesday you have a reset, and then a bunch of people show up to kill the mob, and now you have conflictions. So that would be where they need to kind of taper the size of servers to make it to the point where guilds could work it out. So what that potentially could mean for us as players is that you need to schedule, you can't have your typical, okay, everybody runs Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, whatever you call it, at 8 p.m., Central, or, whatever time frames you're going to go with. That's really going to cause a confliction. Now, that will be something that's different. Now, another thing that's different with Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is the world is much larger, and it's not so linear. At least that's their intention, for it not to be as linear, because usually it doesn't work like that in this type of world. What I mean by that is you can go to this orc city over here and kill this orc king that gives relative loot or equivalent loot to going over here and killing these dragon people or these dragons. So you have more than one option to acquire powerful gear that's relatively equal or the same strength. So how do you stop socking? I don't think you can really stop socking if the spawns rotate like that, where if it spawns, it doesn't spawn again. unless you make it spawn at different locations. But still, you can get classes that can just track the spawn anyway. But I think the idea works really well with the spawn every hour. But that's something really interesting to note. If you are going to get into Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, that's something good to know, is that raid mobs, you're going to have to work it out with other people. And that's another part of what a social MMO is all about. There's really, whatever they come up with, be it spawns every hour and you get locked out to it for a certain period of time, it is going to be interesting to see how people react on servers, especially now with this not having been a thing for almost 10 years. In my opinion, I think the spawning every hour is pretty cool. It kind of breaks the immersion slightly, because you'd be like, yay, we just killed this guy, and then boom, he's going to spawn like in 45 minutes after you kill him. And there might be a group just sitting right outside the door, just kind of, tapping on their thumbs, like, what's going on? Let's get this done. But I think depending on the raid mobs, I think that we should at least put a few hours between spawns, and then maybe you could just alleviate this by making a lot of linear gear. So, if you have a fortress with a bunch of raid mobs in it, make them very difficult, or make multiple fortresses. But don't go too fat. Don't spread your content too much to the point where you never see anybody or even need to deal with somebody else. Because the whole point of this game is you have to deal with people. You're gonna have to work it out, and it will impact your raid schedule. Super likely. You won't have the common, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. But that's kind of the interesting thing of this game, is sometimes you'll log on, and part of the experience will be just working it out with other people. And that's kind of the immersion factor with this game, is the social aspect is super important. And if you do go in there and just, hawk swoop the boss, just go in and take it from another raid, now they're going to spread word, hey, these guys are doing this, and then that in itself, the community will penalize you for that, because will they tolerate that forever? I don't think so. Now, if the other group deserved it, obviously, but I think with this one, a good solution would be for it to spawn just like it did in Vanguard, and you do get locked to the boss, but you're still going to be impacted by that in any case, especially with an open world MMORPG. Next up, we have a post from DJ where he's saying, casual pandering, death of a genre. In his post, pretty lengthy. I do like it. What he's going on about basically is, back in the day, games were very, very challenging. Fast forward to today, not so challenging. Mostly your enjoyment back in the day was you'd go as far as you could, you would die and get a score. And in MMOs, you would spend hours upon hours trying to kill certain raid mobs to even get like that one chance at that one piece of loot. Roll 1 through 40 every 5 weeks on a certain piece of raid gear. It's like the chances of you getting it are almost zero, or maybe 2%. But and then today, where you can pretty much get anything you want within a couple of weeks, and then you're waiting for new content. So, death of the genre. I think the genre is, at the moment, completely gone. Current MMOs that are out right now, I think there's a couple out there that are really hanging on to it and keeping it alive with their fan base. But for the most part, there is no hardcore. See, I even have a problem saying hardcore. There's no heavily immersive MMO that really captures you and keeps you engaged, or really can just, immerse you in the experience to the point where you're just having an amazing time, even if you don't do anything, or if you don't achieve anything. Just the attempt at achieving it with those around you was an amazing experience. So I think the genre, for the most part, and I think Pantheon has said this a few times, has really been missing from the market. It has not been there. There are MMOs out there, but they just really aren't. They're casual games. Is what they're out there. And I guess the best way I could describe it, what a casual game is it doesn't mean it's hard or easy. I think people that say games being hard or easy, because that's completely relative. Like, let's say you have an amazing group of raiders, they're going to probably be able to achieve everything, and the difficulty level be it there or not, really isn't. I don't think that's super relative to that term. So if somebody says this is a hardcore MMO versus a casual MMO, I think there's plenty of difficult activities in casual MMOs, extremely difficult activities in casual MMOs, and there's extremely not easy or very easy activities in hardcore MMOs. But let's just use flying for example. I think flying completely breaks immersion. It almost unimmerses you from a game, pulls you out of that game, because you can just completely skip content. You can come up to an amazing fortress that's super hard to combat and jump on your little flying horse or whatever, go to the top, grab the loot box at the top for your quest, or kill a specific mob, and then peace on out. And that's casual, where hardcore would be you've got to actually come up with tactics, get through this castle, and achieve your goal. So do I think the genre is dead? I don't think the genre will ever be dead because it existed. Can it be recreated? Can it exist in this current market? I think so, especially now, because I think like Pantheon's been describing, it's the time. It's a great time for that aspect of this genre to come back, of the MMO genre. So that's my opinion on that. Do I think it's dead currently? Absolutely, it is dead. Is the old hardcore MMO genre out there? You'd be hard pressed to find it. Is what Pantheon Rise of the Fallen making, bringing you back? Bringing back meaningful travel, meaningful drops. If an item drops, you get it. It really feels special to you. You get this sword, or you get this cloak, or this mage book, or whatever, and that item will have a lot of meaning to you because of the amount of effort it took to get it and the amount of time you probably will use it. Like in current MMOs, you usually get, your item level steps up one item level and things get replaced super fast, or you can transmog out of it, like boom, you can't even see it anymore. Things like that. So the genre is definitely dead. Can what Pantheon Rise of the Fallen is doing right now, do I think it has a place? Absolutely. Do I think it'll seed? I have no doubt. So I don't think this genre, I think it will triumph in this situation. Next up, we have a post from Angry Kiz, where he says, I hate whack-a-nodes. What he's referring to is in MMOs, you have nodes that are used for harvesting, be it trees, mining, herbs, not so much animals, but for the most part, those are the same. You kill the animal, and you go up to something, you click on it, you get a timing bar, your character goes through some kind of animation, and you then get resources. So in older MMOs, what you might have done is collected your materials or resources from actual mobs. You farmed mobs you farmed NPCs for resources that they dropped, and you'd use those in crafting materials. You'd buy your crafting materials from vendors, or you would forage them. That was another way to get materials. You'd forage them through skills, and you didn't really need to be near a specific node. You just need to be in specific regions. So if you were in a swamp, you'd forage for, I don't know, swamp mud. Actually, I don't even know if that's a thing, but that's what it was, and what it's grown into is these nodes. So my opinion on nodes, from what I've seen in Pantheon, is there's super likely going to be nodes. I do know that potentially the way they're going to handle nodes might be different than other games. So if you're in a group, or at least they were kind of hinting at that they might want the nodes to be a lot like in Vanguard, which I personally didn't play Vanguard, but I did a little research on Vanguard, and in Vanguard you actually are rewarded for having multiple people harvesting one node. I don't know if maybe in two different groups, I'm not so sure, but if you're in the same group and you both go after the node, it helps you make that node give better resources, because both people are trying to, team effort, trying to mine and recover the resources out of that node. Personally, I don't really like nodes because they're easily hacked. Not so much hacked, but people can create... It makes it an annoying thing for a developer, in the sense that people can cheat by teleporting their character with hacks. I don't even know how they do it, but I've seen it so many times where they teleport their character around, they mine the node, and then move on. Because usually nodes have node spawn points. What I think Pantheon would be really cool if what they did was potentially make the node spawning maybe on an algorithm, like completely random in certain regions, like obviously have, or spawn at certain points at least in the locations they spawned was appropriate, or trees and stuff like that. If you could actually, harvest the tree, have it spawn in an appropriate spot, like not spawn in a desert or something like that. But I would expect to see nodes in the game. I don't especially like nodes, but I don't think there's anything out right now or any ideas to make anything any different. So I would expect nodes. I would expect that fighting over nodes won't be a thing. You'll be able to do it together because they want to promote teamwork in that sense. And it does make sense that you would mine a node better if you had two people mining it at once versus just one person. And at least in that sense, to at least make that make sense. I mean, just think about if you're trying to mine something, you can be way more careful or you can be way more thorough if two people are doing it versus one. And yeah, so expect nodes, and I don't think we're going to get around that one. Even though I personally would not like to see nodes, or at least your traditional nodes, but I don't think they're going to vary too far in this one, or veer too far off the common path from your typical MMO that's out right now. Next up, we have a post from Deadly Fury. And he's going on about PvP and PvE on the same server. Hear me out. So, basically, Dead Fury is going on and would like to see PvPers and PvEers on the same server. And what you'd be able to do is flag yourself, and then have a timer for unflagging yourself. So, how do I feel about this? How does this gonna work? So, this is pretty common on most MMOs right now that have PvP in their game. Let's see, in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, from what I've read and what I've seen, I'm going to kind of give you both. So PvP in Pantheon is going to be a lot different than other MMOs in the sense that PvP is definitely not their focus. They will have PvP servers, but by no means will classes be balanced around the idea of PvP. In most games, you have your direct counter classes, and then you have classes you can beat. There might be some classes in in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen that completely dominate every other class. Let's use enchanters, for example. They have the power to enchant your mind and control you. That's pretty dang OP. And then you have certain classes that are very focused on healing, and that's all they can do. They can't dish out that much damage to living targets, for example. They can do smites and stuff like that, but well, we don't really know exactly yet, but I could almost guarantee you there's going to be rather centric healing characters or designed around healing where they really can't dish out a lot of damage, and they might be able to heal themselves forever, but they won't be able to kill anything. So with that type of thing in mind, if you open up all servers to PvPers and PvEers alike, granted, you will have PvP on PvE servers, like in an arena, for example. You jump into an arena, boom, you can attack anything. So, don't jump in there if you don't want to. But I think the type of atmosphere that gets raised up in a game when you can flag yourself is something that a lot of people in Pantheon, or people that are coming over to Pantheon, really won't be interested in. So, for example, you've got Jim here, who's a warrior, and he walks up to, Vance, the rogue, and let's say they have a dispute, and Jim's like, and he flags himself, and he's like, come on, bro, let's do it, or whatever. It's really that's the kind of things that are gonna happen in that situation. Then there might be other really, let's be nifty and flag ourselves to make it more exciting and more like crazy, like, this is spooky. But once you've died a few times in this game and you've dealt with the penalty death, which I'm sure will be interesting, that might not really be that engaging for you. The game itself is already enough for you. The PvP aspect is something specific to those that really want to step it up a crazy amount of level, and they're basing the creation of their character around PvP. Where on PvE servers, people are typically going to base their creation of their character around PvE. So mixing it up, I think, is going to change the atmosphere of a server, even though you would engage yourself willingly. I just feel like that's going to happen because I can already tell you, playing the games that have come out recently or in the past couple of years, when you talk to your buddies, or I'm like, hey, I'm on this server, and you're like, oh wow, that's a PvE server, dork, or whatever, you loser, like, just because that's just the phrase that follows it, versus like, I'm on this server, it's a PvP server, I'm a real gamer. Like, and let's be real, majority of the time in world PvE, in games that are out currently or been out recently, typically revolve around griefing. Like, there's very few instances where you meet somebody out in the world, you're relatively even, remotely evenly matched, and an epic battle ensues. Majority of the time, you're like, oh, look at that guy over there. Oh, let's go get him. And then you sneak up on him, and you're like, boom, and he gets 2-shot, and now he's got to run, like, you know, and then you camp him, and he's like super set, then he logs off, and you're like, yay, I'm so awesome. That's why I log on, is to make people log off, bro. But not to say everybody's like that, but I don't think on PvE realms you can, you know, request a duel. Maybe you can even like request a group fight. I don't think they'll have that, but I know they'll have dueling. You'll have certain areas that you can engage in PvP for those that want it, but in your general world, I don't think PvP, even flagging yourself for PvP, really has a place, because it changes the atmosphere of that server. It'll change the atmosphere of your day-to-day life. You know, let's say you accidentally flag yourself, just, you know, through keystrokes, you accidentally, you know, you flag yourself, and now you got to deal with that. Or you accidentally attack somebody who is flagged, now you're flagged. Or you heal somebody that has flagged themselves, now you become flagged. And it just creates all these problems where the game is designed or based, its focus is PvE. They're going to build their classes around PvE, not so much PvP. So I don't think having even the ability to flag yourself on a regular PvE server would be a great idea. I think the servers will hurt for it, in the sense that, you know, probably not as many people are going to play on a PvP server. The people that want a PvP are going to go there to play on it. The people that don't are going to play on the PvE. So majority of people will probably be on the PvE servers, and I think that's just the target of this game, and there's really no way around that. That's just my opinion. I think also Pantheon shares that opinion, in the sense it has come up a few times, and they've said their focus is PvE, not PvP. However, they will have PvP servers, and you can join those if you want. And then that there will be PvP environments on PvE servers, be it arenas or special circumstances, things like that. But it's going to be very limited to those stances. You know, you're really not going to be able to flag yourself or have battlegrounds or anything like that with PvE servers, at least at this time. Okay, next up we have a post from Zanier, which he's saying, why are you willing to financially support this game? Personally, I'm willing to financially support this game because I think it looks like the coolest game of all time. It's not even out yet, and I can just already say that because it's definitely true. But on a more serious note, I've personally never seen a development team so, I guess, passionate, even though, I mean, just from hearing them speak and reading what they've posted and going through all the details and the tenets that they put out there and how they react to things that would compromise that vision or their vision of this game, is just really unique to see in a developer. And I can just, it's almost like they can you just see that this is going to succeed and they are going to make an amazing game. you can just feel it. And especially with this process of through the development, how transparent they're being and how engaged they're being with their audience, and with their, with the participants that are going to be joining them in this world. It's just really awesome to see, and it's an awesome thing to be a part of. It's very exciting. I don't think this has ever really happened in any game I've ever, it's ever been up and coming sort of deal. So that's why I'm personally willing to financially support this game. On top of that, it's really refreshing to see how they react sometimes. For instance, like their in-game store. I guess they had an in-game store where they were selling items, and then some individuals brought in how that might be pay to win. I guess it was rewards potentially. There was an in-game store, and there was rewards from pledging for certain items you would get. And the way they reacted to this, which surprised me, most people wouldn't react this way, is somebody brought up that's kind of a pay to win situation on some of the items in the store. And people had already bought items from the store, and what they decided to do to stay true was get rid of the store and find a way to refund their customers without giving them these items, which I think that was almost refreshing for the people that bought these items, in the sense that they're staying true to their vision and trying to make this the best game that they possibly can. You guys might not agree with that, but just seeing that play out and how they reacted to it, which is just a teeny example of how genuine and true that they're trying to develop this game. It's not like one of those things where you get all excited for a game, you log in, and then you get hit with cash shops, or you get hit with this weird niche where they're just trying to hook you. They genuinely want to make an immersive experience that's socially driven, that you can just have a freaking great time playing. And that's why I'm excited about this game and willing to financially support it. And with that, we're going to wrap it up there. Go ahead and leave any questions you have for me in the comments below, and make sure to choose your poison. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you again really soon.